Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Inside Pitch here at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. I'm Ben Frederickson, joined as always by my columnist colleague Jeff Gordon. And it kind of feels like opening day 2.0 to some degree, Gordo. The Cardinals are back from their lengthy Milwaukee quarantine. They're down some key players in Yadier Molina, Paul DeJong, and more. And we're left to kind of figure out, you and I both had the Cardinals going to the postseason. I think I picked them as a wild card winner. You had them winning the division, which they did last year. What's a fair expectation for this team now? I mean, they're coming off of almost a week-long quarantine. They practiced just twice. They have to host the hottest team in the NL Central and the Cubs, who are the first National League team to 10 wins. This series was a huge series before the pandemic hit the Cardinals. What do we make of where the Cardinals are now? Should they be expected to contend? Should they still be a postseason team, or is this virus really kind of throwing everything up in the air?
I think there's still a chance to make the expanded bracket. I think you can give the Cubs the division title. I mean, they've got some bullpen issues to get addressed, but the rotation's pretty darn solid. Of course, they have lots of offense, and they seem to be responding well to Ross as the manager. So I think you give the title to the Cubs right now. The Reds have issues. The Pirates are terrible. The Brewers are kind of scuffling. If you look around all of the baseball, so many key injuries, so many big pitchers going down in particular, I think this thing could be wide open if all of that pitching depth for the Cardinals actually pays off, because they're going to need every bit of it with those double headers. Keith Olbermann was asking for get back to me when we get to 5-inning triple headers. We may see that at some point this season. We're going to see some crazy scheduling. And I do think the Cardinals, from the pitching standpoint, theoretically are good enough to handle that. Now, Benfred, is there enough offense?
Yeah, well, that's the one thing that hasn't changed, right? And for those guys in the outfield, they're going to be feeling that pressure pick up right where it was when it left off when the Cardinals were taking their lumps in Minnesota. That's going to be back quickly. One thing I thought we might see would be Dylan Carlson called up to kind of help maybe make a difference in that offense. The Cardinals say, no, we didn't lose an outfielder to COVID. We're going to keep going with the guys we have. You wonder how long that will last if the outfield doesn't get some traction, if the lineup doesn't score runs. One of the things we're going to learn, a few of the things we're going to learn during this time while certain players are out, we're going to see Tommy Edman at shortstop for the first time at the major league level. He played a bunch there in the minors, but never got a look there last season. We're going to see Kim in the rotation. That's going to be interesting because we haven't seen him make a start since spring training when he actually carved up that Twins lineup full of starters. So we'll see how he looks in the rotation. We got to figure out where Mike Schilt's going to go with his closer. And we're also going to see some Brad Miller. He hasn't been able to have an at-bat for the team yet. He's been injured. He could factor into the infield, maybe some reps at second base, more likely third, depending on how they want to use Carpenter. They could have him as the DH some as well. So we're going to learn some things, not to mention catcher. Andrew Kisner, hopefully will get some reps as kind of the Yadier Molina heir apparent. And he'll probably balance that role with Matt Wieters a little bit too. So there are some interesting baseball things we're going to learn about here in the next couple of days.
And hold your breath, St. Louis. We might get to see Alex Reyes, huh? Benfred, what do you think? You've been waiting a long time. We might see him, and who knows if they need a million pitchers. He's on the list. We might actually see him pitch another inning.
You mentioned it, but what do you think about the offense by way of the outfield? I mean, how much longer do you think the Cardinals will go before they give the people what they want and call up top prospect Dylan Carlson?
Okay, so my plan before the pandemic was a long time ago. It seems like yesteryear that we were actually talking baseball. My thought was give Lane Thomas one start at each outfield spot, give Fowler 2 starts, Bader, O'Neill. And then at the end of that weekend, now you've given a fair amount of work to everybody. See where you are. I think you know where you are, but make sure you know where you are. And at that point, if Bader's still struggling to hit, if you're not totally satisfied with your production on the corners, yes, give Dylan a chance to play. I mean, the bar has been set pretty low, Benfred. It's not like there's going to be pressure on the kid, but it's not like he has to come in here and be Yelich to make everybody happy.
Yeah, Yelich last season, not Yelich this season.
Good point.
But how about this? My rule, when in doubt, play the kids, and that's why I want to see Kisner. I'd like to see Carlson. Look, I'm not ready to say the Cardinals season is toast. Baseball's a crazy sport, and wild things happen, but they're up against it here, and you can tell just based off of what they're doing in this series against the Cubs and potentially not starting Jack Flaherty. We'll see if they get him in there, easing kind of some guys back from that lengthy hotel lockdown, that they're worried about guys just responding physically to this challenge. So they're in a different place right now than the Cubs. It doesn't mean they have to be in a hugely different place by the time the season ends, but this is a pretty big hurdle to overcome in such a short season. So I would love to see the Cardinals use this time to get some eyes on some of their young guys who could be a part of the future. I think the fans would respond to that. They won't be in the stadium to cheer it. But I did see a story out of Philadelphia where the fans are showing up outside the gates and blowing an air horn during the opponent's pitching. So maybe the Cardinals fans could get on board with some of that and give the team some help against the Cubs. It'll be interesting in a crazy season. We'll have it all covered at stltoday.com and here on Inside Pitch. For my colleague Jeff Gordon, I'm Ben Frederickson. We will talk to you next week.